We all know this isn't an interview, it's an interrogation. Shout out to Jedi JD Vance for walking into enemy territory in the Sith Lord Demonocrat space. The Decepticonocrat space with Sith Lord Margaret Brennan, okay? He's out here being attacked, and you know what? One thing about Jedi JD Vance is he handles these ridiculous attacks on his intellect and masculinity and the Republican Party excellently. He handles these very well. He's extremely stoic. He's extremely knowledgeable. And he's a master at just remaining cool, calm, and collective. You know, that's something I really admire about Jedi JD Vance. Drop down below your best CBS names in the comments. He's on Face the Nation, a.k.a. Never Face the Nation. So let me stop. Anyways, let's get into the video. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. Shout out to the King Squad. I hope everybody's having a great and awesome day. Let's go.
Pete Hegseth, it was a tie. Bipartisan opposition, smallest margin since the job was created. You had to break that tie. If the nominee can't unite your party, how's he going to lead 3 million people?
Well, look, I think Pete is a disruptor, and a lot of people don't like that disruption. But, Margaret, that disruption is incredibly necessary. If you think about all of those bipartisan massive votes, we have to ask ourselves, what did they get us? They got us a country where we fought many wars over the last 40 years but haven't won a war about as long as I've been alive. They've got us a military with a major recruitment crisis, a procurement price crisis that's totally dysfunctional, where we buy airplanes for billions and billions of dollars, terrible cost overruns, the delivery dates are always delayed. So we need a big change. Now, admittedly, there are people who don't like that big change, but it is necessary, and it's explicitly what Donald J. Trump ran on, and I think part of the reason why the American people elected him their 47th president.
So the main objective is changing all of that? That it's going to be Pete Hegseth alone?
I'd say the main problem the main thing that we want Pete Hegseth to do is to fix the problems at the Department of Defense. And unfortunately, there are many. We've gotten into way too many wars that we don't have a plan for winning. We've gotten into way too many misadventures that we shouldn't have got into in the very first place. And our procurement process, Margaret, is incredibly broken. We're in an era.
Decisions.
Well, of course, they're policy decisions, but they're also logistical and implementation decisions. If you look at where we are with the rise of artificial intelligence, with the rise of drone technology and drone warfare, we have to really, top to bottom, change the way that we fund the procurement of weapons, the way that we arm our troops. This is a major period of disruption, and we think Pete Hegseth is the guy to lead the job. Now, there's another element to this, Margaret, too, which is we believe that military morale, at least until the election of President Trump, was historically low. You had the Army missing recruitment goals by tens of thousands of soldiers, and already recruitment is starting to pick up because Pete Hegseth is fundamentally a warfighter's leader at the Department of Defense. He is a guy who sees not through the perspective of the generals or the bureaucrats. He looks at things through the perspective of the men and women that we send off to fight in our wars.
Both the Wall Street Journal and the National Review, conservative publications, as you know, have been critical of Tulsi Gabbard. The Review called her an atrocious nominee who deserves to be defeated. They compared her defense of Edward Snowden, the fugitive who stole U.S. secrets, to an attorney general who thinks the mob gets a bad rap. Her refusal to accept U.S. intelligence findings that Assad gassed his own people, they said, was like a nominee for OMB director not being able to count. Does any of this give you pause putting her in charge of the U.S. intelligence community? Yes or no?
No, Margaret, look, these are publications that attacked Donald J. Trump obsessively, but those publications don't determine who the president is, the American people do.
Him.
And Donald J. Trump is the person who determines who his cabinet is, not these publications that I think, frankly, have lost relevance.
The Senate will ultimately decide.
Well, the Senate will provide advice and consent as is its constitutional obligation, but I feel confident that Tulsi Gabbard will ultimately get through. Two things that are important to know about Tulsi. First of all, she is a career military servant who's had a classification at the highest levels for nearly 2 decades. She has impeccable character, impeccable record of service, and she also is a person who I think is going to bring some trust back to the intelligence services. The bureaucrats at our intelligence services have gotten completely out of control. They've been part of the weaponization of our political system, the weaponization of our justice system. We need to have good intelligence services who keep us safe, but part of that is restoring trust in those services, and we think Tulsi is the right person to do it. That's
she
why
doesn't
the
trust
president,
those intelligence services.
she recognizes that the bureaucrats have gotten out of control, and we need somebody there who's going to rein them in and return those services to their core mission of identifying information that's going to keep us safe.
You campaigned on lowering prices for consumers. We've seen all.
I just want to say it's funny how they never did this to Biden and Ku Klux Kamala Harris. Okay, shout out to Jurassic Joe, Sleepy Joe Biden, Bye Done, and Kamala Harris. Okay, so there's that. Crazy how they don't do this to them, but they sit here and try to assassinate the character and the intellect of the Republicans. Quite interesting to me. What do you guys think about that? Drop down below in the comments.
All of these executive orders. Which one lowers
JD is a beast, by the way. He's annihilating her. He's cooking her. Let's go.
prices?
We have done a lot, and there have been a number of executive orders that have caused already jobs to start coming back into our country, which is a core part of lowering prices. More capital investment, more job creation in our economy is one of the things that's going to drive down prices for all consumers, but also raise wages so that people can afford to buy the things that they need. If you look at our slate of executive orders, no, Margaret, prices are going to come down, but it's going to take a little bit of time, right? The president has been president for all of 5 days.
Literally, I just want to interject right there because you really see the Dems attack Trump in the mainstream, the mainstream media on, oh, Trump delivered, he has all these promises and he's not delivering them. See, he's a liar. Trump is a hypocrite. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You can't say that because he literally just got into office. He literally just got sworn in. Okay, and he's over here doing everything one step at a time. But I see they would know about that. Okay, they do things all over the place, and it ends up making no sense at all. So, you really can't expect them to really have a lot of common sense in their position. They're the party of anti-common sense anyways. But it really is just ridiculous how they control so much of the media and spew out so much nonsense. And meanwhile, Trump has literally accomplished more in 5 days than Biden has in 4 years. I mean, literally, it is insane how much he's just taken care of and how much respect America has literally gained with Trump being in office for 5 days. And even before he was in office, he was literally moving as the president before he was sworn in as the president. Drop down below in the comments what you guys think.
I think that in those 5 days, he's accomplished more than Joe Biden did in 4 years. It's been an incredible breakneck pace of activity. We're going to work with Congress. We're, of course, going to have more executive orders. And we're going to try, the way that you lower prices is that you encourage more capital investment into our country. And you ask specifically, what executive order is going to help lower prices? All of the stuff that we've done on energy, to explore more energy reserves, to develop more energy resources in the United States of America. One of the main drivers of increased prices under the Biden administration is that we had a massive increase in energy prices. Donald Trump has already taken multiple executive actions that are going to lower energy prices, and I do believe that means consumers are going to see lower prices at the pump and at the grocery store, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and while we've done a whole lot, we can't undo all of the damage of Joe Biden's presidency in 4 days.
Well, there are a lot of things that contributed to higher energy prices, and there was record oil and gas production.
Yes, Joe Biden did many terrible things to lead to an increase in prices. I agree, Margaret.
No, but all the things you experience at the grocery store are what people touch and feel. That's what you were talking about, bacon on the campaign trail.
Of course.
Somebody please tell Margaret, you're supposed to ask questions, not argue with the person you're interviewing. Okay, and this is where we say this interview is not an interview, it's an interrogation. All right, it's like they just threw this man on the stand and he's before the judge. Okay, it's absolutely ridiculous what they do. Now, I guarantee you watch an interview with Margaret Brennan and she's over here interviewing Kamala Harris. She's not doing this to her. Ku Klux Kamala Harris, okay, heels behind her head Harris, heels up Harris. She's not doing that to them. They're just letting her have her heels up, heels behind her head. It's a party, right? At the White House. That's all they were doing. But here, you have somebody as logical and knowledgeable as JD Vance. He sits in his seat and he answers these questions, and then she's over here just trying to bump heads with him, and he's over here handling it so calmly. It's like a parent talking to a child almost. Like he's like the parent talking to this rebellious child, Margaret Brennan. Hey, just relax. Everything, we got this. Why are you doubting us? Don't doubt us. We got this. We got this thing figured out. They just don't get it. I don't think they want to get it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Of course.
Those things when do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Well, Margaret, how does bacon get to the grocery store? It comes on trucks that are fueled by diesel fuel. If the diesel's way too expensive, the bacon's going to become more expensive. How do we grow the bacon? Our farmers need energy to produce it. So if we lower energy prices, we are going to see lower prices for consumers, and that is what we're trying to fight for.
Well, the flurry of executive orders, most of them weren't about the economy. Many of them
were, though, Margaret. We had, I think we've
a
taken
promise
over
of tariffs by February 1st.
We've taken over 200 executive actions, some executive orders, other executive actions. Again, this is in less than a week, and a lot of them were focused on the economy, bringing investment into our country and lowering energy prices. We've also focused on safety, restoring public safety, ending weaponization of the Department of Justice. We've done a lot. And I think the president is to be commended for actually coming in and doing something with this incredible mandate the American people gave him. He's not sitting in the Oval Office doing nothing. He's doing the American people's business. And I think they're going to see a lot of good effects from it.
Well, a lot of these announcements have yet to take effect.
Sure.
The president did say he wants to do something with an executive order in relation to federal emergency response. He said he may reform or eliminate FEMA. Instead of sending emergency responders, he may start to send a percentage of money to states to take care of themselves. But, you know, FEMA has specialized expertise that some of these states just don't have
Margaret,
in their arsenal. And
I wish
how
that they...
will states who are lower income states, the Mississippis, the Kentuckys, the Alabamas, be able to do this for themselves without federal help?
Well, the president, to be clear, is not saying we're going to leave anybody behind. He's saying that in the way that we administer these resources, some of which is coming from the federal level, some of which is coming from the state level, we've got to get the bureaucrats out of the way and get the aid to the people who need it most.
But these
Let's
are the
be
first
honest,
responders.
Margaret, you talk about the expertise from FEMA. FEMA in North Carolina, in California, in Florida with some of the hurricanes has often been a disaster. And it's not because we don't have good people at FEMA. It's because bureaucratic red tape and garbage prevents the rapid deployment of resources to the people who need it most.
But the states are now going to have to do this themselves?
The president is trying to encourage us to reform the way that we deliver emergency response in a way that gets resources to the people who need it.
So don't take him literally.
You got to be kidding me.
No,
is what you're saying.
We should take the president at his word that FEMA needs desperate reform, because it does. Margaret, when I went to North Carolina as VP-elect, but before we were sworn in, people would talk about how FEMA would get resources, food, medicine, water to a warehouse, but then would have no plan to get it from the warehouse to the people in the mountains who were literally starving and thirsting to death. We can do so much better, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we will.
But they work with the state and local officials.
They often don't work well enough. And again, that's not because of
the state and local officials?
No, the FEMA.
Yeah, she's just as cuckoo as Kristen Welker and the rest of them. I mean, there's this ridiculous stare, and then they just want to bump heads like a goat or something. It's ridiculous. And shout out to JD Vance for just being so calm, cool, and collective. Bro is literally Terminator. Like, this man is literally AI in the flesh. Bro is literally Chat GPT in the flesh. This man, JD Vance, is Neo from the Matrix. Like when I think of JD Vance, he's like Optimus Prime. Like, all it takes is one of those speeches, and I'll follow him anywhere. Drop down below in the comments what you guys think. And shout out to Margaret Brennan. We're here to expose this hyena as well. Okay, she's not a journalist, she's an activist, and that's that. Drop down below in the comments what you guys think. I think she's just as cuckoo as Kristen Welker, Dana Bash, and the rest of them. I mean, she's absolutely ridiculous. She's just arguing with the man. You know, they want no resolve. They just want chaos, problems, argument, rage. It's crazy.
Management officials don't work well enough with state and local officials to get resources to the people who need it. We should expect, and this is, I think, one of the fundamental premises of President Trump's leadership, the American people should expect more of their government. When there's a terrible disaster, they should expect food, medicine, and water to get to the people who need it. When there's a terrible fire in California, the fire hydrants ought to actually turn on. I am sick of the American people having such low expectations for their government. They should demand more of us, because this is the greatest country in the world, and that's what Donald Trump's leadership promises to bring back.
So still count on the federal government, but watch that space. Let me ask you about another area that you campaigned on quite a lot, and there was a flurry of activity on, and that has to do with immigration.
Sure.
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops this week condemned some of the executive orders signed by President Trump, specifically those allowing immigration and customs enforcement to enter churches and to enter schools. Do you personally support the idea of conducting a raid or enforcement action in a church service, at a school?
Well, let me address this. Of course, if you have a person who is convicted of a violent crime, whether they're an illegal immigrant or a non-illegal immigrant, you have to go and get that person to protect the public safety. That's not unique to immigration. But let me just address this particular issue, Margaret, because as a practicing Catholic, I was actually heartbroken by that statement. And I think that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to actually look in the mirror a little bit and recognize that when they receive over $100 million to help resettle illegal immigrants, are they worried about humanitarian concerns, or are they actually worried about their bottom line? We are going to enforce immigration law. We're going to protect the American people.
Yeah.
Donald Trump promised to do that. And I believe the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, if they're worried about the humanitarian costs of immigration enforcement, let them talk about the children who have been sex trafficked because of the wide open border of Joe Biden.
You personally
let them talk
support them
about
going into
people like
schools
Laken
and
Riley
churches.
who were brutally murdered. I support us doing law enforcement against violent criminals, whether they're illegal immigrants or anybody else, in a way that keeps us safe. Let me ask this question, Margaret. Let's separate the immigration issue. If you had a violent murderer in a school, of course I want law enforcement to go and get that person out.
Of course.
So what's the point of the question?
You changed the regulation this week. That's the point of the question.
Exactly.
Giving the authority to go into churches and go into schools.
We empowered law enforcement to enforce
But
the
that
law
also
everywhere
has
to
a
protect
knock-on
Americans.
effect, a chilling effect, arguably, to people to not send their kids to school.
I desperately hope it has a chilling effect on
You seen the Democrat come out just now. Crazy.
illegal
You think
immigrants
the
coming
U.S.
into our
Conference
country.
of Catholic Bishops are actively hiding criminals from
I think the U.S.
law
Conference
enforcement?
of Catholic Bishops has frankly not been a good partner in common sense immigration enforcement that the American people voted for. And I hope, again, as a devout Catholic, that they'll do better.
There are 5 legal challenges already to one of the other immigration actions, the order on birthright citizenship. A federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan, I think you'd agree, has some conservative credentials,
Sure.
paused the order to end birthright citizenship, calling it blatantly unconstitutional. How do you reconcile this challenge to the 14th Amendment to the Constitution?
So I obviously disagree with that judge, and these things, some of them will be litigated. That's the nature of our constitutional system. But here's the basic idea of President Trump's view on this. If you are a lawful permanent resident or a legal immigrant who plans to stay, your children, of course, should become American citizens. But let's say you're the child of an ambassador. You don't become...
But that's not part of it.
Well, that
There's
is
already a
that is
carve-out
that is
having
an
to do with
important
kids of
principle.
diplomats.
But we're saying that carve-out should apply to anybody who doesn't plan to stay here. If you come here on vacation and you have a baby in an American hospital, that baby doesn't become an American citizen. If you're an illegal alien and you come here temporarily, hopefully, your child does not become an American citizen by virtue of just having been born on American soil. It's a very basic principle in American immigration law that if you want to become an American citizen and you've done it the right way, and the American people and their collective wisdom have welcomed you into our national community, then you become a citizen. But temporary residents, people who come in here, whether legally or illegally, and don't plan to stay, their children shouldn't become American citizens. I don't know any country that does that or why we would be different.
Well, this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by... This is a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers. But just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world. No.
Woo! He is cooking. He is frying her like an egg in the morning, everybody. This is happening in real time. Well, not real time, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. This is actually happening. This is crazy. He's absolutely smoking her. Okay.
Country says that temporary visitors, their children, will be given complete access to the benefits and blessings of American citizenship. America should actually look out for the interests of our citizens first. And that means, again, if you're here permanently and lawfully, your kid becomes an American citizen. If you're not here permanently If you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States
Yeah.
and don't plan to be, why would we make those people's children American citizens permanently?
I want to ask you about refugee admissions, which were just suspended by the president. That has nothing to do with the U.S. border. Refugee screening takes 18 to 24 months to go through. They are heavily vetted. Left literally at the airport this week were thousands of Afghans, some of whom had worked with the United States government and were promised to come here. When you talked to us in August, you said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals
but there are
have been properly
30,000
vetted.
people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary
Do you stand by
concern
it?
as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that
So
we
no.
know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These
It's
people are
not
vetted.
good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really
But,
care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
Exactly.
2 weeks ago, you were on Fox News and you
She can't take it. She can't. They can't take what they dish out. It is absolutely wild. And matter of fact, I wouldn't even really say that. They just can't stand the facts. I mean, it's really just the facts. Okay, they just can't take the facts, and it really looks like she's really trying to pick a fight with him more than anything. She's looking for. We got him. JD Vance. Look, JD Vance, he's stuttering. Everybody, take a look. Capture this. Put some headlines on this. Okay? And then throw this on CBS, aka Complete BS News, and let's make JD Vance look like a fool in front of the world. That's literally what it kind of is making. That's kind of the vibes I'm getting. Like a gotcha moment or something like that. Let me know if you guys agree down below in the comments. But he is so articulate. He's handling this like the beast that he is, and I'm absolutely here for it. Okay? And he is cooking her, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing our 48th president live in action. Not actually live, but you get the gist of what I'm saying, okay? It's absolutely amazing to see, okay? This man is Neo from the Matrix in the flesh.
You said if you protested peacefully on January 6th and had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. Did you counsel the president against these blanket pardons for 1,500 people?
Well, Margaret, I noticed
including those who committed violence.
Margaret, I noticed that you cut off the thing that I said immediately after that. The full quote is that, of course, there are gray areas. And here's the nature of the gray area. Merrick Garland's Department of Justice denied constitutional protections in the prosecutions. There were double standards in how sentences were applied to the J6 protesters versus other groups. What the president said consistently on the campaign is that he was going to look at a case-by-case basis.
This is blanket.
And that's exactly what we did. We looked at 1,600 cases, and the thing that came out of it, Margaret, is that there was a massive denial of due process of liberty, and a lot of people were denied their constitutional rights. The president believes that. I believe that, and I think he made the right decision.
Daniel Rodriguez used an electroshock weapon against a policeman who was dragged out of the defensive line by plunging it into the officer's neck. He was imprisoned, sentenced to 12 years, 7 months. He got a pardon. Ronald Maccabee hit a cop while wearing reinforced brass knuckle gloves, and he held one down on the ground as other rioters assailed the officer for over 20 seconds, causing a concussion. If you stand with law enforcement, how can you call these people unjustly imprisoned?
Margaret, you're separating, there's an important issue here. There's what the people actually did on January the 6th, and we're not saying that everybody did everything perfectly. And then what did Merrick Garland's Department of Justice do in unjustly prosecuting well over 1,000 Americans in a way that was politically
motivated? Is violence like that against a police officer ever justified?
Violence against a police officer is not justified, but that doesn't mean that you should have Merrick Garland's weaponized Department of Justice expose you to incredibly unfair process, to denial of constitutional rights, and frankly, to a double standard that was not applied to many people, including, of course, the Black Lives Matter rioters who killed over 24 people and never had the weight of a weaponized Department of Justice come against them. The pardon power is not just for people who are angels or people who are perfect. And of course, we love our law enforcement and want people to be peaceful with everybody, but especially with our good cops. That's a separate issue from what Merrick Garland's Department of Justice did. We rectified a wrong, and I stand by it.
I'm being told we're out of time, but I want to quickly ask you, the richest men in the world were at that Capitol on Inauguration Day, heads of Amazon, Google, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. In August, you told us Google and Facebook are too big. We ought to take the Teddy Roosevelt approach, break them up. Don't let them control what people are allowed to say. They've now donated to the Trump inauguration. Are you still going to break up big tech?
So, you know who else was at the inauguration was my mom and a lot of people who just supported the president and fought every single day to get his election. And
they
to make
gave
it,
$1 million
possible.
each to the inauguration.
Well, there were a lot of people who didn't give $1 million to the inauguration.
They got pretty good seating.
Who were on that stage, Margaret. They didn't have as good a seating as my mom and a lot of other people who were there to support us. But look, we believe fundamentally that big tech does have too much power, and there are two ways they can go about this. They can either respect Americans' constitutional rights, they can stop engaging in censorship, and if they don't, you can be absolutely sure that Donald Trump's leadership is not going to look too kindly on them.
So they're still on notice.
They're very much on notice.
Wow.
Fair house to the...
And there you have it, okay? We are looking at our 48th president, ladies and gentlemen. This was your 48th president absolutely frying Margaret Brennan like an egg in the morning, okay? He absolutely cooked her, and he obliterated her, really. He annihilated her, okay? This man is absolute, he brought absolute hellfire and brimstone, okay? I believe I said that right. It's been a while since I heard that. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about this. I think that he handled this extremely well. He's extremely intelligent and articulate. And, if anything, from this interview right here, this looks like an advertisement for him to be president in 2028. I mean, it looks like a commercial for him being president, like way down in that time. Okay, like when we get there, like in 2028. Here's JD Vance absolutely cooking, okay, these Democrat operatives, Democrat assassins, okay, and it's really a sight to see, okay. He handled it very well, even when they were twisting his words and throwing old things back at him, okay. He is very knowledgeable, he's very intellectual and very well spoken, and you really also see why these news stations are decreasing in like viewership and like why the mainstream media is absolutely dying. Okay, because you have CNN, crap news network. Shout out to whoever said certainly not news. That was brilliant. And then you have NBC. What does NBC stand for? It slipped my mind. Drop down below in the comments what NBC stands for. Okay. And then you have CBS, Complete BS News, and ABC, America's Bullcrap Network, and yeah. So NBC News but crap. I don't know. I need to come up with one. Yeah, I need help, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Drop down your best NBC names in the comments. But yeah, I'm really amazed. And they would never do this to Biden or Harris. Biden or Harris couldn't even stand and sit here for a whole 20 minutes and dissect each question like Trump or JD Vance. Okay, when you really compare and contrast Trump and JD Vance versus Biden and Jurassic Joe and Ku Klux Kamala Harris, you really see it's like night and day. Okay, Biden and Harris, they're over here writing checks like Oprah to everybody else and then making our lives increasingly difficult. Meanwhile, Trump is literally standing on his own 2 feet on all 10 toes, saying literally focused on making America great again. Okay, literally having people send money to us. Okay, and reinforcing the border and jobs and everything like that, and literally doing what he said he was going to do. Okay, it's absolutely amazing to see. And Trump and JD Vance literally get things done right in front of your face. So much so to the fact that the mainstream media literally has to just attack them for doing what they said they were going to do. Okay, it's the wildest thing. They just have to attack them for like doing a good job. It's like when you like clean the table really well or something, and then somebody looks at it and is like, you missed a spot, and you didn't miss a spot. Okay, they just want to pick with you. They just want to start a fight. That's what it's like when JD Vance gets on these interviews with Margaret Brennan and these Democrat assassins. Okay, that's what it's like, guys. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Thank you to everyone who watched this video all the way through. I hope you guys are having a great and awesome day. You guys are awesome, and don't let anybody tell you any different. All right, you woke up this morning. That's something good right there. Thank you to everyone who donates to the channel and keeps me updated in the emails. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say down below in the comments. Have a great day. Let's go.